seen Ephesus, and now we're heading to Pumakkale. The construction on the hill there. These multi-level apartments, there's beautiful views. All the palm trees down the middle of the road. Goes for ever. These are travertines from a different perspective, from the bottom.
Forces up on the top is around 37 degrees, lukewarm, and super saturated with calcium carbonate as well as carbon dioxide. And to keep them white like this is a challenge. Again, you need to keep the water running down the bluffs on a certain program. If you run it too less or too more, and then too little or too much, and then in the long run either it will get mossy and green or it will turn dark and get black and brown.
So there's the travertines from the bottom. In front of that tree, that is the original colour of the travertines. The rest of it is artificially white, and they keep it white, which is what they've done in ancient times as well. One duck. There they go again. That's the travertines there, the hang glider. And the water runs down here and into a little lake. We're very, very close here, and there's a little travertines there. The excess is running down. Left out of the hotel, and we're on our way up to the top of the travertines. This is the graveside of Pumakkale, or Heiroplis Healing Centre, and this is the actual graves.
Do you understand that this is a foreign land? So try to understand me. Do you understand? Do you understand? This is what it feels to love, and I can feel that. This is what it feels to love, and I can feel that. This is what it feels to love, and I can feel that.
And the reason is that normally you see these crescent looking bits wouldn't be just a crescent. It should be further manufactured, further decorated into a garland of flowers. So this would have been the garland. This thing there's hanging looking like a kind of downward pointing arrow would have been a grape cluster. And this one would have been the face of a Medusa for the protection of the grave. And you see now, it's just looking like a circle or something that is looking meaningless. But we know that this is actually a design, you see, but not complete. Why? Probably this did not come direct from the site. The marble quarried elsewhere, and then they semi-manufactured as they ordered it. And when they came here, they were not bothered. They just played this. They probably said, "This is all right as it is. Don't worry about it." Just placed it in there and dumped it. Again, Greek language prevailed, although it was the wrong period. A lot of people spoke the Greek language, and they got these little protruding things called acroteria to bring good luck. These are the same as the ones seen on top of a temple. Again, those little protruding bits are part of the design. Like the side of a bluff or something, for example. Although they don't look like a temple, but still they belong to some very important people. But these ones, generic people, probably businessmen, etc., that stood out in the community having some probably holding important positions in the communities. There were wardens in charge of keeping them safe away from the potential looters and people who would break in, because you would pay for it. When you die, I mean when someone in your family dies, then you go to the Department of Funerals, and these people then charge you a certain amount of money. Then they show you a location where you can do your burial, and then having paid your money, which is a tax for keeping it safe after all, when you're done with the ceremony, and then the wardens will be in charge, you know, guarding for these places 24 hours a day.
So that was ground level, so it wasn't too bad. Medusa head up here. What's left of it?
When you see the lion heads, chances are it belongs to someone related to warfare, like a commander, general, someone like that.
All the people coming up. Busloads of them. All to dip their feet in the travertines.
As it hits the ground, touch my hand up to the air.
That's a public bench.
Entrance corridor and a vestibule, then the actual chamber. You can see. So you built this whole thing out of stone blocks and then pile it up with earth on top. Here's the cross section again. You go through here. There's a corridor. Here's the porch. Here's the place where you bury people. So we got, like, for example, for this particular kind, good for the burial of 3 people at the same time, 1, 2, 3, which is called triclinium, because these are called cleaner individual stone beds, called tumulus.
These are called tumulus, and they predate all the others by hundreds of years.
Dying in a foreign land. So do you understand me? Do you understand? Do you understand?
And you're up here amongst these ruins, the cemetery and ancient civilization.
From that end, span all the way to the other end, and built as a bath around 3rd century AD. It was in that kind of form. You can kind of tell, you know, that wall's there, and some sections collapsed, etc. over here. And then 300 years through its lifespan, the central part was combined by walls and converted to a basilical church, hence the name Bath Basilica. Roman Asian
Frontimus Gate.
So in which case
just these columns lying on its sides. Incredible. 3,000 years old, this gate.
you can always see the sewage part of the toilets, the lower platform. The actual platform on which people sat and did their toilet is not visible. See that trough there again, where we have the constant running, constant run of the fresh water, out of which with the sponge, you know, they do the cleaning job, which slightly elevated platforms would have been there but didn't survive to our times.
So this is the main street, and these were where all the shops and that would have been.
Yes, the water came from that, you know, source and encircled the whole building, you know, fresh, clean water. So the sitting areas would have been a little higher here, and they got all completely broken due to various reasons.
There's a gate from the other side.
Then run down in the middle, below these stone blocks, literally covering up for that, you know, sewer and our sewage system.
Like a manhole.
This is a 14-meter wide street where that, oil being narrowed down by the construction of trees during the Byzantine period. They kind of, the Byzantine people, they kind of spoiled the actual width of the street. Byzantine gate made of
Makeshift.
material that came from Agora, and that's also, so there's this northern Byzantine gate and we got the south gate as well. It literally shrank the size of the inhabitants of the city. Again, the same concept as it was in Ephesus. The individual sinks, so you can see that the water was gushing out of the pool because it was fed by the spring, you see. And people could access these sinks and then wash off themselves and whatever. So here's a picture of that. I'm going to show you just one that was placed back on.
This was the fountain.
Travertines, when they get formed, for a couple of months or so, they're soft, easy to manage, easy to query. But then when you let them get hardened, and they become so challenging to remove, they get vulcanized to each other. Here's the example. This is the original level of the street's pavement, and this is all the travertines you see. So, well, when the city was probably abundant and water, probably that came from this fountain, that time with the, and maybe, the pipes cracked and all that water channelized here, all the place, and they all deposited, you see, and then they got really hot after, decades and centuries or what, and they got really, really hot and became a challenge to remove. So it took them years for the archaeologists to remove these, travertine cover the street and bring it back to light.
Wow. So this was travertines that they had to cut through.
There's enough splash water on them in the heat of the summer, for example. Plus these were also serving as a trough so the animals could get around during the chariot car traffic. As you keep the water running, it will keep going, but then it will fall out of use though. But after all, here's the result. So this is the pipe, and the pipe got completely clogged by the same debris right there. Yeah, and then you got no choice but at the time, removing these and then decking out new pipes so that you can, keep delivering the water to anywhere you want.
Check the chariot marks on the rock. Ancient pipes. Had to put it up top so it wouldn't get blocked by the sediment from the travertines.
From where they channelize the water, diverting it to other directions.
Wow. Walking along an ancient waterway. There's a naturally occurring pond there. The outside of the theatre. Look at all these on their little buses. That's Heiroplis. There's the theatre. See the travertines there?
And then in the Roman period, this was entirely colonnaded. But due to these seismic activities, the columns that used to surround this natural pond fell into the water along with the lintel blocks. That's the reason why we see all those, you know, blocks and stuff in the middle. That makes it more fascinating.
This is a natural pool where the ancients the Romans used to come. You can see the pillars and that's fallen in, people leaning against the pillars. Ruins.
This is what it feels to love and I can feel that. This is what it feels to love and I can feel that. Even right now.
There's a hang glider. This is the little parkway associated with the travertines. There we go. The travertine's just going forever. And when you look at the view in the background, there's the people at the travertines dipping our feet, but the problem is it is so slippery. I'm not game enough to do it. I'm just going to sit on the end here. Is Phil coming back? He's game enough to do it. Even with the travertines, you're walking along and you've still got ruins, ruins in there. I mean, how beautiful is this area? There are more travertines here. They have to regulate the flow to keep it white. So they do bits every now and again to keep it all looking as pristine as what it is. And of course a lot of it's artificially coloured as well. It's a good shot of the theatre. This was the ancient city of Telmessos. It's now 2,400 years old.
Buried in here, it says an inscription.
Wow.
So this is probably a local warlord in the Lycian period, around 4th century BC.
Lycian
people were quite a
That's
distinct
how big it is,
civilization,
enough
you know,
to
they
fit through.
created different ideas that hadn't been seen.
Can't get out of bed. I'd rather go back to the dreams I'm living in my head.
This is the entrance to the abandoned Greek village.
Homes or single-storied but multiple room homes, or multiple storied and multiple room, like belonging to rich people, homes as well.
Toilets. The
This is
church.
the upper church called Taksiyarkis Church.
Tuesday evening, pack my bags, I'm heading out the door.
Society again.
This is a school.
There were slaughterhouses. There were, you know, chemists selling medicine, as well as doctors for physicians, I mean like GPs, for examining people coming from surrounding villages. They were coming here for treatment.
I left a box of memories lying on the floor.
Income, Hence the good quality houses they could build after all.
Where's the mine?
It's about
Mine is further away
600-year-old
from,
village.
you know, that.
Walking along the abandoned street where the Turks were made come back to in the program they introduced in 1923. The people swap program basically. Look at these, they were people's rooms and houses.
It's not in December for
The blue there.
people, you know that that's January.
Different parts of the town have different colours. There's a cistern. Pipe leading down into it. Each house had their own.
For privacy, that's how they designed it.
Oh, so this
Far
is their
away.
toilet. I'll be damned.
Yeah. Right on, right till early morning sun. Right on, like the dawning of the day. It's too late all your feelings show. Go on till
Kind of like the forest area of where we're walking. We're going towards a cove. So in and out of forests and on the hilltops, climbing over stones and all sorts of things. Another clearing.
swept away, running from the
This is one of the most popular beaches in Turkey. About a 15-minute drive from Fethiye. It's full of restaurants, sun lounges and young people. You can see the views from the beach. Grass hut, all these little grass huts here. You just lay back on them on the beach. This is a township around that beautiful cove. Very, very touristy, but also a lot of locals come here. Called Lagoon Beach.
city lights. I'm running from this empty life. I'm running now.
Just left Lagoon Beach. So 600 years before Christ, the Persians came and took over this whole area of Turkey, and they done what was to become known as a Lycian.
Lycian. Lycian.
Lycian culture.
Sign. So this
Oh.
was enlisted. It was 88, an early one. 83.
Okay. UNESCO listed, one of the first, and Lycian settlements. So
Highly colonized. There are lots of bits and pieces you can see, like lintel blocks, etc. To be seen in this part of the world, nowhere else. There are a number of other examples, of course, but you see, we got the base, and then the pedestal, then the oblong itself, what we call oblong. You know, that one monolith, rock monolith, and then the burial chamber, and then a roof with cedar steps. Okay? Was the burial chamber in which Kerei must have been buried after he deceased. Podium, like that. And look,
what,
this is
because the
dating back to
burial
earlier than
chamber.
many of the things we've seen so far. Therefore, this is Lycian language. Lycian language hasn't been deciphered yet.
Time tonight. I'm screaming out for help.
it's the original ground level of the Agora. 600 years before Christ.
Only 5,000 people. It's got those, arches on each side. The arch on the right is blind. They just put it there to make it symmetrical so that it wouldn't, stand out. There's a stage building, isn't well preserved. You can see those outlets for the wild animals and gladiators to come out and fight before the eyes of people for entertainment. There were such mosaics. This came off here. Otherwise, they put this gravel on purpose for its protection.
Yeah,
You don't want them to get,
Too late now. Right
white chamber for the burial.
Yep.
So there's an opening there just behind for the burial placement. Where are they now? In British Museum. These are all smuggled out of our country by Charles Fellows. But those reliefs are also genuine Lycian reliefs. That's why they reflect Lycian art from 2,500 years ago. Only seen in this part of the world, this night. So Lycian, house type, horse saddle topped tomb or sarcophagus. Peculiar to only Lycian culture, only in this part of the world.
What is this? The
Water system. Use it anywhere you like.
So if you come down to bucket out your water.
Greenhouses. This is like, tomato area of Turkey, also red pepper, eggplants, pepper, everything.
Are unique to Lycian. Motel in Kush. This has always been here. Gee, they're built everywhere. Coming down into where we're going to get our boat for the day. This is where we're getting picked up to get our boat.
Basically named this whole area Petrol.
This is our little boat for the day. We've got it to ourselves. So we're just leaving the little port now.
We're off the coast of Corva here. We're just having a swim in a little cove on the coastline.
Here we are with our private little boat out in the Mediterranean. He's tucked us in this nice little island here. And you see all the boats starting now.
I am sailing home again, across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters to be near you, to be free. I am flying, I am flying like a bird across.
This is the life.
This is life, that's what you're here for.
This is our second stop for the day. Here we're off again. Comes the anchor.
Sky, I am flying, passing high clouds to be near you, to be free. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
fish. Partially sunken.
If you look at the water, you can see some more sunken ruins.
Oh,
Some more sunken ruins as well. So just beyond those two ladies, you see some of the. They're not just rocks and water. So they're all like walls, structures and stuff that used to belong to the harbour buildings. There's yet more as well, additional compartments. This area was a quay at the time of the ancient times. So you know, quays are parallel to the sea, so that you would do parallel parking by your boat. Yeah. This boat here, right behind the boat and to its right, were individual parking of the boats, or docking of the boats as well at the time, where they located some capstan rings and capstan heads, onto which they tied up the boats at the time of the ancient sea trading.
but on that boat is a church, 6th century BC.
Of Dolikiste. The name of this ancient settlement was Dolikiste.
Who can say? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Through the dark night, far away, I am dying.
And clear remains there, and some of the wall structures that remain under the water as well. Yeah. For example, this is the harbour.
This is a
You can
harbour.
see the breakwater that made a right angle going all the way along to the other side. So this is some 6 meters from that corner to the other. The breakwater, the harbour.
Wow.
Some of the ruins there as well. Look at those stones and the joints. That shows the fact that some of these buildings were double-storied. You can see the rest of the breakwater in the sea. Completely submerged. There's a sewage line right there. Sometimes as the streets, you see the rock-cut steps leading into the water as well. Quite a heavy settlement, and roughly speaking, maximum 20 feet or 7 meters of submerge we can speak of.
Jeez.
When the earthquakes kicked in, causing these results, they weren't bothered. They moved further up away from the sea level and resumed life. You see another clear wall structure there that almost completely submerged in the water. All these individual dwellings mostly carved into the bedrock due to the lack of space. Another structure can be observed around here. No. Happen to be right on the fault line. We're now looking at the church.
Yeah.
This was a cruciform church with a cross shape. That semicircle there you see facing east was its apse. Right there, the church.
See all the buildings and what's left of them.
Here's another room. That's like a sewer line right there. Probably was discharging the additional rainwater, etc. Look at these ones. They'll have that prominent triangular pediments on top, which would have been the roofs themselves, with a beam in the middle supporting the roof structure. There's that rather intact building up there with the prominent entrances and windows. Here's another foundations of another structure, completely submerged. So that feature is definitely ancient. Proves the fact that there has been here settlement before the Jesus Christ time as well, before the Christianity as well. One looking into the water, although it's a bit difficult for us, fragmented potteries. From the times of the seeds trading, the potteries were amphoras, carrying liquids and food at the time. So this was basically the official harbor of the whole area. They wanted to keep the strangers away from their settlements so they wouldn't end up learning about their secrets and stuff. You see the stairs as well, the streets. Even that the settlement was really...
There's more steps going up there. 4th century BC. Then Roman,
This kind of form to this castle was
Byzantine, then Lycian.
this place right there.
Forever crying to be with you. Who can say?
Shallow bits around the islands were actually above the sea level until the land subsidences occurred. In which case, that tomb there, the sarcophagus, ended up being isolated in the middle of the water as well. Do you see all those people cuddling in the water right next to it?
Yeah.
So that
Oh, it's a tomb.
yeah, that became isolated.
Oh, goodness.
Probably those shallow bits would have been islands as well at the time.
Been a part of this landscape before the earthquakes.
Lycian horse saddle-topped house-type
Saddle-topped.
sarcophagi. That's how we call them.
Okay.
And most of these are from the early period. They are for about 2,400 years old. Some of these, prehistoric mollusks.
Oh, mosaics in the courtyard. And that's a baptism bowl. Lycian tomb. This is a part, maybe where they're all buried, the Lycians, and that's a part of the castle up there. 3 different types of generations. Called a prayer on the island. Lady and all the goodies. So this is Lycian ruins. That's the fort up there where we were earlier. You can see all the ruins and that just dotted around. Going back 2,000 years ago, well before Christ. A lot of it's sunk into the sea. This would have all been attached to the mainland. There was an earthquake and it's all sunken in, and there's a tomb over there in the water. Good photo opportunity for people. You can see the way the blocks are cut, that this would have been a quarry. Lycian theatre. 2nd century BC theatre, just outside Kush. Very well maintained. Look at the views. Vegetables as far as the eye can see. This is basically a lot of vegetable growing in this town. Greenhouses.
Relatively recent discovery. A church, a chapel, well, a small one, a chapel. And this was completely under the alluvial deposits. When they found this, you can tell. Amazing discovery. And they found these, frescoes on the interior being almost intact. Wow. Ironically, all the deposits protect them well for all those centuries.
How old?
About 1,000 years old. Saint Nicholas lived. So that makes this town a biblical town. Very, very important for especially Orthodox Christianity. Isn't it? So you see a group of men,
Yep.
some naked men, some dressed men, some
Yep.
warrior-looking people, some people like sort of shown in a reclining position, etc. Early capital of the Lycian region. This was the late capital during the Byzantine Christian period. And before it became a capital, this had been an early Lycian settlement as well, in which they built these beautiful rock tombs. So these are the rock tombs called Lycian house-type rock tombs, because they look like houses, just like the ones in Fethiye, remember? Just like the ones, yeah. They don't quite look like temples, that's why they fall into that category. And some middle-class people, such as civil servants of their time, would then be entitled or affordable for them to be buried in these kinds of tombs.
Come and see the real thing, come and see the real thing.
This is a Mediterranean plant that grows in our country as well. We got a Turkish name for it.
Okay.
So the Roman and Greek artists picked this up as a model for using them on their decorations of the column capitals especially. So these are eggs and these are arrows. Eggs and arrows. That's why this is called the egg and arrow border. That's how we name it. Very interesting. Little masks. It was all around the stage. And there was actually the mastership of the stonemasons, to which you had a contract and an agreed upon price. And then they would start the project on your behalf. And again, you built your tomb before you die. Therefore, this is ready for you when you died, for yourself or your family members, whoever. This technology, they had to, lean their structure against a slope, using it as a foundation itself.
So the arches were introduced in the Romans.
They cut these stone blocks at right angles and really good finish. You can tell. These stone blocks are thousands of years old, but look at the quality of that.
And they built the arches after the earthquakes to try and sustain their civilization.
In the old language, ambula, the word ambulance came from that. And the way that you can come out, this exit, is called vomitarium. Like vomitarium, so it's vomiting people into it.
Oh.
They built these Romans just to prevent any disaster, like a disaster prevention situation, because some fires broke out in the theaters. Thousands of people got stuck because of the lack of such important arched tunnels. And so in order to not to repeat these disasters that had occurred in the history Romans implemented these, so they would facilitate the
Like an
entry and
emergency exit.
Absolutely. And also it would make your life easier as well, because you could just go up the stairs and then find your own seat. I think the whole structure from one corner to another, like a kind of walkway, you see, and then it would facilitate again you finding your seat. And I say your seat because these people, you know, most people, rich people, middle class people, paid for their seats for per annum, like a season. And then they would, you know, inscribe the initials of your name, like a ticket, exactly. Inscribe the initials of your name on your seat, and then there will be your and your family's seat for the whole year. And then you keep going, and then you retain your seat for yourself. You can see there are lots of holes here, such as these. These holes are showing us the fact that they were mounting some parasols to make the theatre in the shade. These people were not suffering and melting, or you know, in the heat, or sweating like hell, trying to watch the events going on. Instead, into these holes, and you know, it came with a stack and a parasol, like a tent or something on top, and it will be full of such features. In some theatres will be even more advanced, where you then get the whole top being pulled from one to another, like a tent on top. They would bring you the shelter, they would protect you from the rain and the sun. So these two,
Seats with
these are for
backrests.
important people called protocol members.
Protocol members.
The semicircle.
Yeah.
Do you see those upright
Yep.
standing stone blocks?
Yep.
Those were the fences to protect the important audience from the wild animals and their fighting. Because sometimes the animals could go out of control and they jump over and then grab the audience. A deity. Most of times it was Bacchus, as you know, the god of, you know, like he's my man, like, you know, beer and wine, woman, nightlife, convincing powers and all. Bacchus, everybody knows Bacchus. I'm sure you learn him at school. This is not Bacchus though. I'll give you my estimate. This looks like Artemis the Huntress.
Come and see the real thing, come and see.
So you can see the stage itself.
Yeah.
Back then it wasn't called a stage, they were called skene.
Oh, another vomitarium.
Because there's a corridor.
Another emergency
parallel
exit.
to this walkway. So this is the whole part of the site that was excavated, which is probably just scratching the surface. Because there's a lot more potential all underlying the greenhouse.
This whole area.
One example of which is the church.
It is Theatre of Myra from the bottom. The acoustics part of it. With the eggs and the arrows there. Orthodox Christians, this is a pilgrimage place.
And then there had already been that concept of Father Christmas delivering gifts to especially children on the eve of Christmas in the northern countries. When St. Nicholas came out as a venerated saint, in the northern countries, in like some cities of Belgium and Germany and Austria and New York, etc., or like Scandinavian countries, etc., these two concepts got sort of combined with each other. That became the new legend called Father Christmas. Comprising the oldest nucleus of cults. This mosaic that we are standing over, 1,000-year-old mosaics called Opus Sectile.
There's a meaning there, but the meaning there doesn't really mean a thing. Come and see the real thing, come and see the real thing, come and see. I am the real thing.
We can say that we've been to the place where St. Nick may have been buried. Very old church. These restaurants there, they've got all these lovely tables right on the beach.
You'll see me trying hard to understand, but really not. You'll see me. There's a meaning there, but the meaning there doesn't really mean a thing. Come and see the real thing. Come and see the real thing. Come and see.
Where the restaurant in the mountain top. A lot cooler up here. All fresh water coming from the mountain. Basically runs through the restaurant. Beautiful setting.
Because this place was founded by colonists who came from Rhodes around 7th century BC. Before he said, sure, we can make a deal. And they said, we got barley bread or sun-dried fish. Which one would you prefer for the purchase of the land? He said, well, you know, I have so much barley bread. So what about, you know, selling this land to you in return to some sun-dried fish? That would be good. And they did the exchange of goods, and then they own the land. Right here, and they get sort of glued to each other by the fine limestone matrix. It's cheap everywhere. They used it. For the theatre the same. Just walk this way. I'll show you the harbour. So that's the North Harbour right there. For the commercial purposes.
Military harbour.
And not much left, of course, from those structures. On either side of the street, there were these steps as seats for people to sit down, relax like benches, public benches. And flanked by some public buildings, as you can tell.
Public benches.
These kinds of pedestals are called postaments, on which there stood the statue of that person, relevant person, as per the information written here about them, like an honorary, generally, information. Looking little indents, do you see them? They're actually nothing but the dowel holes onto which they mounted the marble slabs. Remember? The whole of the interior of these places were covered in marble. Therefore, they were actually posh.
A tool called a squigglers that would scrape the dirt off, and then that washed themselves with chalk, because there's no such thing as soap back then. Still in the Roman baths.
Smoke, and then you heat the air in that room, and the hot air would then expand and consequently go through these openings. And sometimes, you know, though, they had a cauldron on the fire with water inside, and then you would then bring the water to boiling point as well, and you would not only get hot air.
Roman baths part on up opposite side of the road. Over there's the Roman baths as well.
Trying hard to understand, but really not just seeing me. Trying hard to understand, but really not just
Beautiful spots with the most beautiful views. This is a great example of that. Look at the views of the Forest Mountains. This is the highest mountain in this particular area. You can maybe see there's a building on the top. So that's the final station of that cable car taking.
There's a meaning there, but the meaning there doesn't really mean a thing. Come on and see the real thing. Come on and see the real thing. Come on and see. And the real thing.
What's left to go?
Yeah, it was in this state when they first started the excavation some 100 years ago.
They've done a good job on what they've done.
There, either inscriptions or low or high reliefs. Such as these examples there.
That's the examples of what would have been on the gate and surrounds. The architraves and then the friezes. It's an amazing Roman site with bits and bobs everywhere.
Lotus is replicating the lotus flower, as we all know, and it's right there, look, with lotus. Right next to it, because they're sort of carved here in an alternating way with the palmet, which is a symmetrical version of the actual palm trees. They give us that shape.
Okay.
So they use the nature in decorating their lintel walks, eaves or friezes. In our old town,
Hadrian's
the
Gate.
hotel is just around the corner from the Hadrian's Gate.
You're supposed to walk through here. This is the old town of Anatayla. 11th century AD.
It was some 1,000 years ago a medieval university established by the early Turks before Ottomans who settled in Antalya. What we see from the threshold.
One of the first mosques is Anatayla.
You can see the rest of the walls down here too. These are the continued walls.
the
They kind of
walls,
merge
Roman.
with the travertine bluffs. Yeah. And there's yet more this direction as well, so we're going to walk that way.
Minaret and the 600-year-old mosque behind it.
100 years old.
Most of these homes are 300 years old. Anatalia's public beach. Always packed. All the people swimming. Christian architecture.
Early condition.
Wow. So they buy their lots and you have to dig into the ground and make sure there's nothing of significance from the past down there.
Show us the...
So that's the previous level.
White Roman original, kind of like scattered around there. It's hard to tell for me to identify. I mean, definitely the foundations of the building. When it was a temple, something. Here's the fun fact: look, the axe there and the Muslim axe there is very to the right, given the fact that the orientation of the building is on the east, but not facing south or southeast, is what we want from where we are looking to Mecca. Keep your bearings like that. Because of recycled material, probably was added on the wall in the Byzantine period. Sideways. Yeah, it's just the material. Who cares what's written on it? That was a fact in the Byzantine period. Very interesting.
So these are all original Byzantine walls.
Indeed,
A lot of them.
I can tell. I mean, when I see this, I can certainly tell it's definitely Byzantine because it's jerry built. And this is like it used to be when it was a church, a three-naved church.
Yeah.
You can see the side naves and here, the main nave facing towards the
So that's the original.
Yeah, just recycled. Yeah. So look, this is the plastic bit.
Oh yeah.
And so it must have been painted over as well with frescoes. And again, those are just, arbitrarily, randomly recycled like that.
This is a restaurant where we had dinner. You can see all the twinkling lights over there on the coast. We drove through there today. This is Hadrian's Gate, Ankara. Right in the middle of town, people walking through it all the time. This is where the original ground level used to be. You can see the wheel marks where the chariots used to go through. Walking around the side. They've got a lot of use this gate. Then you come up into the old part of town. Okay, we're heading out of Ankara on our way to Konya. Goes up to the town there, runs along here. So to go up and down, so you can see the up bit there, and the down, and then it'd go up again, and that would regulate the pressure, water pressure.
So that's like the second half of 2nd century AD. That's why this is around 1900 years old. Capacity is about 15 to 20,000 people. So this is the second biggest theatre in our country, one of the best preserved Roman theatres in the world as well. And well, made of marble, some sections are conglomerate. You can see that in those niches and individual ledges there stood, statues more than life size, made of marble. Therefore it was quite a marble structure. There used to be a tent that would be pulled over the whole top of the structure to make it a good shelter at the ancient times.
This is the theatre of Aspendos. You can see the little squares cut out where they would have put the umbrellas for the important people up the top. There's a restored, and then there's the original steps. Restored colouring and the original. There's the entry exit.
These are combined with the towers on each side of the stage as well.
They called the Bolitarium, where they could exit. That's an intact VIP section there. Bonnie's sitting in the VIP section. Look at these in their bloody motorised cars, would you? Stupid bitches laying out in the sun on the walkway, and they are aging themselves by the minute. There you go, someone just went down, got 2 handbags, a hat's gone, flip-flops.
This is what I call the bomb burning chair in the heat, but anytime you may consider with the UNESCO when you see this magnificent structure before your eyes, it makes you say that it was worthwhile climbing all the way up there in the heat.
So they would be Lycian?
Lycian.
Lycian.
These are all.
Looks like old mate there is rowing with an umbrella on top, and he's rowing a tinny. Oh dear.
You start the help of tree. I'm sure you know. Okay, just like that.
I bless the rains down in Africa. It's the only thing I can think of.
Sandra, listen to this. Look, she can hear me now. And you want. She can hear me. Amazing acoustics. Look, just watch the Hey You Want.
Yeah.
But look at that. This is like, oh God.
Great acoustic.
That blows my mind. Hey You Want. I can just stop doing this. Oh no, she's. Oh God, this is a bit of interference, but atmospherics. That's the right time, no problem. Money. Something like that. That's what it talks about. And did it hold them back? No, of course not. Who cares? They didn't give a shit. This is actually a double-storied grave. You can take my picture so that I can get the sack. Come on, where the hell have you been? Where the hell have you been? That is a bad customer, that one. What was the name of that white one there? Bad customer. You are in deep trouble, my friend. Come on over here. Right, folks, this is actually recording this.
Yes.
Not.
Yes, I am. Don't worry, I can blank it
No
out.
problem. Do you want to see Ian? So, where is Ian? So maybe this is one of this stupid men, for example, just breaching the rules and trying to erect some candles. There's option number one. There's another option like behind the scenes we can't reach.
Carpet standing up there on its own.